I'm just going to quickly tell this story because it triggered off a memory today, because somebody says to me, have you ever worked in a nursing home and have you ever experienced anything paranormal? And I thought, yes I have. So this is a quick story about a man called Arthur, and I would be in my 30s at the time, and I worked in this nursing home that was an old Victorian house, and it was residential for 26 residents. And my best friend there was a man called Arthur, and he was only about 51. He was very young for a nursing home, but he wasn't in there because he had Alzheimer's or anything. He was there because he had spina bifida, and he was struggling to live at home on his own because he was wheelchair user. And I think if I remember rightly, he was only there temporary while they got him into a home that was adapted for his wheelchair and things. He was only a little guy. He was only about 4 foot something because of his condition, and he was in a wheelchair, and he couldn't use his legs very much. So what I remember of him is he was a really happy-go-lucky little thing, and he was gorgeous, and we used to have such a laugh. And I'd turn up at the job in the morning and he'd be like, come on girl, come on, come on, come on. And he only wanted me for fags, because in the nursing homes it was quite brutal really, because if you smoked there, what they used to do is they used to take the cigarettes off the residents because of the fire hazard, right? And then they'd put them in the office, and then they'd allocate them so many cigarettes a day, and he was only allowed 3. And he used to say, I smoke 20 a day. I smoke 20 a day. And I'm like, well, you know, try and get past matron type thing. But he used to get me to go and sneak into office. So I was always going in on a ruse. And I'd be like, oh, I've just come in to see if you've got my timesheets and stuff. And she'd be like, oh, I thought I'd given it you. And I'm like, you probably did, but I don't know where it is. And while she were getting it, I'd just pull a fag out of a drawer, because that's where she kept them. And I'm like, then I'd put it in my pocket and go and find him, and he'd be like, oh, I love you, he says, you're best one of you, because I've always been belligerent and stuff, and I believe that we should treat adults with respect, and if they smoke, you know. And he goes, is there any chance you can get me some whiskey? And I'm like, no, actually, I'm not going I'm not going on Rob, no. But we got on really well, and we always laughed all the time. And he used to say stuff like, can you get me tickets to go to a concert and take me with you? And I'm like, how am I supposed to drive your flipping chair anywhere? I can't even get you out of the building with it. And we were always laughing and joking and that, and he was really jolly. And he had a daughter who was about my age at the time. And she used to come round and say, what are you two like? You know, every time I see him, he's like a boy when he's with you. And I said, well, we'll just have fun, you know. It was great fun. I went into work one day and he just looked grey. He looked awful. And I went, Arthur, are you all right? And he went, I don't feel good. I said, what's wrong with you, lad? And he said, I don't know. So I went over to the matron and I said, matron, he's not well. And she said, oh, I'll go and check on him. And she went to look at him and she went, oh, no. She said, you're going to bed. So she got some of the staff to take him to bed. And then I had to go and do the breakfast. And there was one of the staff there, beautiful girl called Precious. And she was from somewhere like Zimbabwe or somewhere like that. And what they've done is they brought over a few immigrants to work there because they couldn't get the locals. Nursing homes and tourism are full of foreigners because the locals don't want to do the jobs. So the guy that worked with her was called Success. And I said, why have you got names like that? And he said, because where we come from, our parents give us a name that they want us to carry. And I thought, isn't that lovely, calling your child Success? I said, and you sat here in nursing home on minimum wage, and we were all screaming, laughing, and he went, well, it's better than where I come from. You don't get paid that much there. So we used to have a right laugh. And then we were stood in the dining room, handing out all the breakfast and everything, and then the matron came down and she said, Kelly, do you want to just go on and have a little sit with Arthur? And I went, oh, yeah, is he really that bad? She went, the doctor's coming. I went, right, okay. So I went upstairs and I went into his room and he looked like he'd withered away. And I went, what's happened to you, lad? And he couldn't even speak. But he was grey and he looked awful and his skin was waxy and horrible, and I knew he was going to die, but I didn't know how soon. And I'm like, oh God. So I sat with him and then I kissed him, and then I was holding his hand, and then I got called back downstairs and I went, you're going to go into hospital and you're going to be back soon, and when you come back I'll get you a few more fags. And he went, oh yeah. And I said, and I might get you some whiskey as well if you behave in hospital. And he's like, yeah, like that. I goes downstairs and Precious was serving some breakfast out, and she said, how is it? I said, it don't look good. I don't think he's going to make it. He looks awful. I don't know. Poor lad. He looked like he'd aged overnight, just really quick. And she went, oh God, I hope it don't go while I'm here because I can't cope with death. And I went, in a nursing home? And she went, I can't. I went, oh my God. I said, well, at that point I hadn't experienced it myself there. So I was kind of sort of same, but I'm not scared of anything, me, like that. But anyway, the doctor came and he was just coming through the front door when the matron comes down the steps, and she just put her hand on the doctor and shook her head like, and I'm like, oh God. And he went upstairs and then he came down with the matron, and she said to me, she said, I'm just letting you know that he's passed. And I went, you what? I said, he's gone. And she went, he's gone. He was gone like that. He died in his bed. Well, Precious started crying and she said, oh God, I don't like stuff like this. I don't want to go and see him. And matron said, I'll lay him out, but the doctor's going to go now and the undertakers are going to come for him. So we've moved him into another room. So they moved him into this other room. Right. So we're in the dining room, and on the wall is a panel, and it's got 16 numbers on it, and that's the numbers of all the bedrooms. And his bedroom was something like number 3, and she moved him into number 12. And we were stood there and we were talking, and I was trying not to cry because I loved him. And I said to Precious, I said, I'm finding it hard to hold it together because you're not allowed to grieve because you've got other people there, you know, and they need you to not be like that. And all of a sudden, the buzzer went off on number 12. And we've just looked at each other like that. And I went, oh my God. Well, she started crapping it. She said, that's where they've just put his body. Oh my God. And then she went, it's all right, it's all right. It must be matron. The matron's probably done it. But we turned round and the matron is stood in the hallway downstairs. So I called out. I said, who's upstairs in room 12 with Arthur? And she went, well, no one. We're waiting for undertakers. And I went, so there's nobody in his room? She went, no. So I started laughing, and Precious were nearly passing out. She said, oh no, I can't do this. And I called out. I said, I'm going to call out. So I called out, Arthur, are you there? Come and say goodbye to me. Don't just leave me. And all the buzzers went off, all of them, like do like this. Well, Precious fell into a chair and she's like fanning herself. She said, I'm going to die. And I was going, thank you. I went, I love you, Arthur. And the matron comes in. She said, what the hell's going on with buzzers? And I said, it's Arthur. And she just looked at me like my lights had gone out. I said, it's Arthur. He's saying goodbye to me. And I'm calling out to him. And I'm going, have a great time, lad. I'll see you on the other side. I'll bring some fags with me when I come. Matron went, you're cracked. And other one, Precious is laid there on the chair. She looked like she passed out. And I'm stood there laughing. Then I'm dancing round dining room going, Arthur, come and dance with me. You've got legs now and all this. Well, you should have heard it all. The old room was in uproar. Everybody started acting really weird. well, all buzzers were going mental, and I'm dancing round singing out to Arthur, and some of the residents were going mad because they all had like Alzheimer's and stuff, and they didn't know what was happening, so they started singing and dancing and banging the cups. And did you see this precious lady chair in a coma? She looked like she'd just gone onto other side with Arthur, and I couldn't stop laughing, and it was like a madhouse. And the matron just stood there looking at me, and then in the end she went, "Oh God, I can't expect anything else, can I?" And then the undertakers turned up a while later while we were cleaning up, and she sent the maintenance man up as soon as the undertakers took him away, and to look at the buzzers, and he said, "There's not wrong with them." And I said, "I keep telling you all." It was Arthur. It was Arthur. He was saying goodbye. When you die, you don't die. There's no such thing, right? So you just leave your body. And what he did is he left his body, and then he thought, "I want to say goodbye to Kelly." So he pressed all the buzzers to say, "See you later." And I thought it was great. And I was so happy that he did that for me. So that's one of my ghost stories. But I think it's hilarious. And his daughter came a couple of days later to pick up all his stuff, all his belongings, and she said, "I just want to say thank you to you, because when my dad came in here, he was like a little old man," she said, "and he was only there temporary, I think. And she said, when you came along, he turned into a lad. He went back into being a boy again. And you were like two kids." She said, "Every time I come and see you both, you're huddled in a corner somewhere, giggling, and he's going on about get us a fag, and you're." She said, "You used to make me laugh so much, and I'll always remember that." So that's a nice little story for you. I'll probably come back with another one on another time, but it is 9:25 at night, and I'm tired, so I'm going to go.